Hi, this is Dave the Animal Guy. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about SuperWorms. For the demonstration, we're outside in the sun, but ordinarily you're going to want to keep these in a dark closet or even in the basement would be better, because they're even hiding right now. They don't really like the light or the heat that much, but basically the SuperWorms are for your lizards, chickens, anything fishing. Okay, they're basically like a giant mealworm, and they're a cousin or related to the mealworm, but they're giant. Okay, so here you can kind of see how big they are compared to a mealworm. And now they have eaten through all of their substrate. It's time to change that. And they can actually live inside, like either some wheat germ, or we have some oatmeal, and I have a couple more surprises for them. But basically you could keep them in the substrate of oatmeal or wheat germ, and we're going to change that because they've eaten through it all. So this is the easiest way for me to do that, is just use a little sifter. Okay, and then you're going to want to save that as fertilizer. Okay, so you're just going to take this and, in my eyes, that is a very simple way. And then we're just going to set them up with a new substrate. Okay, so we're going to put in some oatmeal. If I can get this bag open. Okay, so we're going to dump in some brand new stuff for them, and they eat that and live in it. Oops. Well, that's no problem. Okay, then we're going to mix in a little wheat germ. And you could go either or. And actually, I probably should have put this in the microwave if I was concerned about little moths or anything getting in here, or potential little mites. Sometimes you would want to actually run this substrate through the microwave, heat it up for a little bit to kill any bugs, kill any bug eggs that might be in here. But for the demonstration, I guess they're not going to bother me too much. But in case you're concerned with bugs, you can run your substrate through the microwave. Okay, now we're just going to put our SuperWorms back in. Some are hanging on there pretty good. Come on, little guys. You'll like your new habitat. There. Now that's how they get their that's how they get their food. Now see this? That's a perfect fertilizer right there. That you could actually start collecting this and put it on your plants, or put it in with your compost. Don't throw that away. That's very good. Okay. So we'll keep that, and we'll put that in the compost pile, or we'll make a fertilizer out of that. Now, maybe as a special treat, this will be the first time ever seen on YouTube, because it is a little expensive. But I like to give them a little bit of hemp seed. Now this is like $11 a pound, so a lot of people aren't going to go to this trouble. But I figure, what the heck? If I could just get my bag open here, maybe I'm just going to tear into it. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this hemp seed. Just a little, a couple tablespoons. Give them a little something special. A lot of people aren't going to go to that expense, and I understand. But I think it's worth it. Now, that's what they're going to eat. But also, they need moisture. So, for your worms, you're going to use either carrots or cucumbers. And for the worms, I like to shred it like this and make it nice and easy for them to get some. And they'll be a little stirred up because I just changed the substrate, but you'll see. Maybe we'll do a time-lapse video and show how they eat this. And that's good. That's good for them. Right like that. And then I'm going to move them into the shade for a moment. I'm going to put the little cover back on just in case they get squirrely. I usually keep this little cover on. And then again, I keep them in a dark room just for filming. That's why we're in the sun today. But I'm going to move them to the shade and just set them down so that they don't get too hot and bothered. Now let's check on our beetles. The beetles, they don't seem to be enjoying the sunshine right now either. And they look, now for the beetles, you can either feed them. I see one is looking like he's not feeling too good. They're definitely, I've definitely got to get them some carrots. Get them something. Now you want to use some egg crates or different little things. Give them some nice little hiding places. Little places to hide. But we definitely need to, see here's some yesterday's cucumber that they ate. And they're definitely looking for some moisture. And I'm going to have to get them back to the shade as soon as possible. Now, these are your beetles. These are what produce the superworms. Okay, and I think they're getting a little upset. I've got them out here in the sun. So I'm going to have to get them back in the shade as soon as possible. But these are what mate and make your superworms. And they lay their eggs in the substrate. Okay, now here's what you do. Probably every few weeks you want to move your beetles over to a different location and then just keep this substrate. You don't want to throw this substrate away because that's where all your eggs are. And that's where you're going to get your new superworms. And you can, the best thing that for your beetles, even better than carrot, you can either give them some bigger slices of carrot, or the best thing is actually cucumber. I'm going to go to the store today and get them some more cucumber. They had cucumber yesterday and they love it. And they're getting a little hot and bothered here in the sun. So I think we might have to move these guys to the shade, and we'll discuss this. We'll cut and we will discuss some more about the superworms in a minute. I want to get these guys back to their shelter. Okay, we're back. Sorry, we had to move to the shade. The beetles did not like that sunshine at all. It's a hot day here in California today. But we're back. We're going to talk a little bit about how to transform your superworms into the beetles so that you can get your breeders. So they're basically going to go through some different life cycles. And for these particular beetles, they seem to do best. They will not pupate unless you put them in a little tiny container. Okay, so you're going to want to take a little tiny condiment container. This one's already had one in there before. Poke a couple air holes, and you're going to take a superworm and you're going to put him in here, and then you're going to close him up and put him in a dark closet. Okay, and within a few weeks he's going to start to pupate, and he's going to look something like this little guy. Now see, that's his old skin. This is a pupa. And a little bit, while it's not going to be long before he turns into one of these guys. And then he's going to be a breeder for you. Here's one that still hasn't quite pupated yet. He's thinking about it. Okay. See, so he's in there. And we just keep them individual. Otherwise, if you don't keep them individual, they will be afraid to pupate because they're very vulnerable when they're in this state here. Another beetle or a worm could come up and attack him for moisture and potentially eat him. So that's why you got to have each one separate. And I like these little condiment containers. They're fine. They seem to work good. And then I just get an old box or tray. You know, you can use a tray like this or a little box like this, and just close them up in the dark. And then within a few weeks, they're going to pupate, and then a little while later, you're going to have your beetles. Okay, so you go from this stage to eventually you get your beetles. See, now they seem a little bit happier now that we got them in the shade, and they're eating their carrot. And we'll get them some cucumber today. Cucumber is number one for the beetles. Carrot is fine for the worms, and cucumber is good for these guys when they're and you could see where they're going for that carrot. They like it. And then again, now here's the thing that I haven't heard a lot of people mention, is how or when are you going to hatch the babies? The eggs are going to be laid here in the substrate. Okay? Now, what do? You have to, in my opinion, it's probably a good idea to move all the beetles out and collect that substrate, and you can put it in a bin. The reason I use an aquarium is because I'm fairly new to the hobby, and I like watching them and everything, and learning and sitting there and watching them. But actually, you could just put them in a bin and let them hatch out, and they'll be just as happy. They actually like the dark. They don't like the light that much. So, and you could do something as simple as a small little thing. When I first got started, introduced to the worms, this is how I got my first little set. Was just I had some substrate in here and a few breeder beetles, and then they start laying their eggs in the substrate. You want at least probably 2 to 3 inches of substrate in there so that the eggs find their way down, and you could have a setup as simple as this. As a matter of fact, we could do a quick little tiny setup. I'll show you. Just step over here. What we can do is set up some substrate. Okay. Got a little oatmeal. Take a little wheat germ. Okay. A little more oatmeal. Maybe a tiny bit of hemp. Just a little bit, you know. Just give them a little something extra. Okay. Now, we can go over, grab a couple beetles, get a couple nice, vibrant, active ones, put them in. You set up for your new colony. Just make sure you get some real vibrant ones that are moving around. Make sure they're not laying on their back or anything. And then that could be your new breeder colony. Something as simple as this. Or imagine, you know, a bigger bin as you start getting bigger. And then they will lay their eggs in here. And then you want to make sure you keep a piece of cucumber or carrot in there for them. Now, one more tidbit. This is kind of important. If every once in a while you're going to have a beetle that when he comes out of the pupal stage and he becomes a beetle, he doesn't turn out quite right. Okay, now this is one that you probably don't want to breed from. You probably just want to feed him to your lizard or chickens. See, every once in a while they'll come out and you'll see his wings aren't quite formed right. He's not formed right. This is one that you probably don't want to put in with the breeder colony. And you want to go ahead and just probably feed him to your chickens. And so yeah, we'll give him a little piece of carrot until we have time to give him to the chickens. There you go, little guy. But yeah, we're probably not going to breed from him. So just keep that in mind, that if they don't come out right, don't put them back in your breeder stock. Okay, Dave the Animal Guy. we're just cleaning up. We had to get those beetles and worms back into the shade. It's really hot today in California. They weren't happy out here in the sunshine. But final recap, you're going to have your worms in their substrate. When you change their substrate, you can turn that into fertilizer. But the substrate with the beetles, you don't throw that out. You don't make that into fertilizer. That's where your eggs are. You move your beetles out, move them to a different location, or you take your substrate out with all the eggs and you put it into a tub and you put that in a dark closet and let them sit there for a while, and they're going to hatch out, and then you're going to have to give them some little carrot shreds and stuff like that so that they have some moisture, but they'll be able to eat that oatmeal and the wheat germ and everything like that. So just you're going to have your worms and then your beetles, and make sure that you give your beetles, I think they enjoy and get the most moisture out of cucumber. And then for your superworms, carrot. Okay? Make sure they have plenty of coolness. Don't get too hot or they won't be happy. Thanks again for watching. This is Dave the Animal Guy. We'll see you on the next one.